Hi, Scott here. And when I came out this morning, the birds wanted to get together, and I thought, let's do this together as I was thinking about making a video. So this is, I don't know, like the idea is 5 minutes old. I mean, I've thought of making a video before, but with the birds, I thought, because remember Jesus talking about them in, I think it's Matthew 6 or 12 or something. It's Matthew 6 or Luke 12, or I don't remember, but consider the birds of the air and how God feeds them, even though they don't worry, right? And he talks about, and don't get me wrong, it's like, yeah, we're humans. We need to make some plans and do some things, but the whole thing is start with the most important thing, and that is knowing that your heart springs from God's heart. And that's what you'll see. I've got a painting here that kind of works that whole angle, that as we cultivate ourselves, remember, your body is a temple of God imagery. It's like cultivate that space of connection with God's heart, that your heart, right, comes from. That's why you want to love and be loved and live a life you love, right? Because God is love. And we are sons and daughters of God. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. And it's all about living from the love that gives life. And actually, we're just true to ourselves in that way. Like these little ones are just true to it, and have come to, experience that they know I love them, and I'm going to just try to be good to them, period. They're going to get good things, right, when they come to me, right? Even if it's just for the day, because that's how things work, right? It's always in the present. So be present to your life, be present to what gives life, and start with your capacity to love and to connect in love with God and with other people. And of course, remember, the divine is masculine and feminine divine. I talked about that a little bit the other day, right? So anyway, here's the chart that I wanted to talk with you about. And the birds are going to help me a little bit, right? The whole idea is, you can see down here, God is love, and this is like the big heart of God down here. And then over here's our heart springing from God's heart, right? And all the treasure, remember Jesus talking about the treasure hidden in the field of your personality, really. It's of who you really are, right? This unique person. Everybody is unique, right? That was unique going in my hat. Everybody is unique. So you got to be true to how God formed you as the branch of God's being, right? That you really are. But then, right, learn to work that wellspring as you are in this world that you're going to see. There's more here, right? That can be quite challenging. So you have your own home in the world, okay? So let me tell you about the background of this little chart. I started making it in 2016. And yeah, election year, and you could just feel something was shifting. Just a not caring too much about respect for each other, right? And fueling hate. And using fear to fuel hate. That's just never good. It's never good from either the left or the right. It's not good, right? And so inconsistent with Jesus. It's the exact opposite of how Jesus worked. His whole thing was, everybody gets lost. But that never changes the fact that everyone is a son or daughter of God. Everyone, all the time, as an eternal soul, come to be human for a time, okay? Yeah, hi. All right, so I'm going to put this, I guess I can do this. 1 second. Because look, this is what the world, right, is really like. And now you're going to have the experience my daughter had when she saw this the first time, 2016 or 17, I forget. When I was doing it on the kitchen table, working on it, she came in and she's like, I could just see on her face too, like she didn't want to hurt my feelings, but she's like, what the heck is that? But anyway, what she said is, it's kind of beautiful, like it could be beautiful, but it's definitely overwhelming. And I started laughing. I was like, exactly. And she said, so what is it? I said, it's life. It's the adventure of being human, right? And she's like, oh my God. And I knew, she knew, right? It's like, she shouldn't ask, but she wanted to. She couldn't help it. She said, all right, so what's the point, right? Because it's definitely overwhelming. I said, your inner wellspring, that we can work from our hearts, because it's actually built into us, right? These fundamental things, our desire to love and be loved, it's because God is love, and our hearts spring from God's heart. So work from there to create a home, right, where you're about love, You're always trying to be about love and not the egoic fears that can take over if we're not careful. I gotta get my hand out there for the birds again. And yeah, and she's like, okay, I get it. And we had a really good conversation. And I usually did a few times in a couple classes, and but I could tell it's also overwhelming. But that's the point, right? You're never going to figure it all out. No way. You can't, right? It's like a chickadee trying to figure everything out in the world, right? The human mind can't figure everything out. What we can do is recognize and develop a fundamental relationship with the real living God, not a big guy in the sky who's judging everyone and is very conditional, quite frankly. You've got to believe in Jesus or else you're not going to come to heaven. It's like, no, it's not believe in the sense of anything egoic. It's participate. Like when we look at someone and say, I believe in what you're about. I believe in love, and I'm going to try to be about that too. I believe in this divine love that Jesus represented and represented, right? Showed us in such a beautiful way. And others have too in such amazing ways. I put up here, when you come in as a baby, we run into dis-ease right off from the bat, right? Doctor spanks you or it's cold, you come out of your mom's womb, and the Buddha talked about that as dukkha, right? And it's usually translated suffering. It's really just, yes, suffering, but then how we start really right from the start being like, all right, how do I avoid suffering, right? And get what I need. And that's the beginning of the development of the ego, right? It's natural as can be. But the Buddha was right too. Much better to get to mindfulness of, kind of truly what's in your heart, and a desire for compassion, a desire to be about right kindness and things like this. And it starts with compassion for yourself, compassion for even this whole journey of being human. I think the gift we're going to realize when we pass, and you hear it from near-death experiences, yeah, everybody develops an ego, but then you see that the real treasure is whenever we can kind of transcend that and be about love in the midst of hard things. That's it. Those are the moments that come up as the highlights of our lives. And so the way you do that is actually settle in with the creative forces of life. Develop your own, but mindfulness practices, and we'll go over possibilities, that can work. Of course, there's many great teachers. But to see the fundamental idea is whenever we're caught up in this stuff, the storms of the ego, the storm systems the ego creates, just recognize and take a deep breath, like even right now, right? Settle in. Like that feels good, just to settle in right there with the creative forces of life that are actually giving you life. They're always there, fundamentally, right? Every breath, every heartbeat. These unforced rhythms of grace that come from God, come from our Creator, come from the desire to love and be loved and be manifest in third dimensional reality in these bodies that actually, right, are given life through these unforced, graceful rhythms of life. Our breath, our heartbeat, it's all connected. This is why breathing meditation, breath prayers are so helpful. As you settle in, you can actually feel it even. You feel a little better. We say, take a deep breath, right? Yeah. Well, you can do a lot more than just a deep breath, right? You can learn to feel for when is that love moving that gives life. Always try to create from there. And whenever you get lost, remember Jesus said, I came to seek and save the lost. We get lost all the time. I get lost every day, especially in my fears, my egoic fears, right? Okay. Don't condemn the ego either. Just say, I don't have to do that. I can work with God. Like these birds have learned, right? They can trust and just come, get what they need for the day. Block the camera, whatever. Have fun with it too, right? Have some playfulness with it, right? Unless you become like children, Jesus said. He wasn't saying be childish, but recognize you're never going to figure it all out. What you can do is participate in what gives life. The quality of love that gives life. The relationships, the quality of relationships that give life. Starting with your relationship with the divine. Yeah. Well, that's good enough for today. Hopefully not too much of a sermon. I hope you have a great day.